Welcome back to Sports First, ladies and gentlemen. It's another prediction and pretty much all around show today since it's the final countdown. But yeah, it's the finals, ladies and gentlemen. Boston Celtics versus the Warriors. So in my last video, I pretty much I was on point. I mean, after watching the first couple of games, it was somewhat obvious. But even though it didn't come out exactly the way I said that it would come out, because the last game I thought the Celtics would actually dominate, which they did for a bit. As in, I think they had a 16-point lead at one point, and feel like they held back a little bit, so that kind of churned on them, and Jimmy B literally came down to the court and shot a three. If that three would have gone in, that could have probably, well, it had a good chance of, obviously, it was going to give them the lead, the 1 point lead, and they probably could have won the game in that situation or after that situation. But no, that obviously that three didn't go down. Seems like everybody was cool with the shot. It wasn't really a bad shot, and then obviously the foul and stuff. Well, technically it was a 1 point lead, but or it should have, but obviously with the fouling and all the other stuff at the very end, that's pretty much it. Did come down to a 196 4-3 Boston winning the series against Miami. I mean, both teams were injured all around, and hopefully obviously both teams were injured all around. The Heat might have been injured just a bit more with, like PJ Tucker, Tyler Hero. The other thing is, Tyler Hero, I thought he wasn't even going to play Game 7, but I guess he ended up playing Game 7. Got to play a couple minutes. Kyle Lowry obviously wasn't 100. Jimmy even wasn't 100. He got twisted his ankle, and he had knee inflammation and all that stuff. And I don't remember. I mean, obviously, it was all over the place with the Miami Heat. Celtics, the majority of their players had like shoulder issues. Well, Tatum, I know, at one point had shoulder issue. JB, actually, JB, I don't remember JB having specifically any issues. But for sure, Marcus Smart was just. I mean, Marcus Smart was like falling all over the place. So it's like there was times where you thought like he was pretty much done for the series, or well, at least I thought. But he would always just get back up. Defense player of the year, obviously. Um, Other players, Al didn't really like. Al somewhat was out of like pretty much the whole series, to be honest. Other than, I mean, he obviously did his thing or did what he was supposed to, but I felt like there was at times he could have done much more, like easy layups and all that stuff, where he just didn't get it down or just didn't get the points. Um, Other than Al, Robert Williams, obviously he isn't 100 himself. But one player that stepped up was D-Dub, Derek White. Derek White has shown a lot of improvement during all these playoffs. Actually, specifically this Miami Heat series, because what was it, during game, I think it was 6, where he did a lot, or that game without him, I believe that game would have been like a pretty bad loss for the Celtics, even though technically it did. But that was the game where Jimmy had his epic game. So yeah. But like for me, I felt like the only way that he were going to win is if Jimmy dropped like 50 or something. Jimmy did not do that. Maybe less than 50, but he needed more from the rest of the guys, and that didn't happen, and we're here. Um, Dallas, obviously, they didn't have any. I mean, they just didn't have enough. Period for their team wasn't really too much injuries and stuff. I mean, Luka did have a really bad game. What was it game 5, game 4? No, game 5 or games. Pretty sure that series didn't go to. Let's see what it was looking like. I think it only went to 5 games, but I'm not 100. 3-1. Yeah, it was the game 5. Yeah, the one Luca didn't really have the great game. Um, if anybody, dang, I mean, JB was pretty much on the majority of the series. There's probably a couple games where he wasn't on too, but for that only game they won, the guys that showed up, Dorian Finney, Bullock, and all those guys, but the majority of the Caesars, a lot of those majority of the series, a lot of those guys weren't there, or they weren't there as in they weren't showing up, getting their buckets. And if players like that don't get their bucket, it's not looking good. I don't know what they're going to do in the off season. Like, who are they going to get rid of? They're going to get another player or a couple of players, 3-point players. I mean, I feel like they already have those players. And Dorian Finney-Smith, Bullock, and Damas Bertans. He stepped it up a little bit too, but well, as in he started going in the paint, but he's really supposed to be that 3 guy. Other things. So yeah, these matchups pretty much. I mean, we don't obviously we don't know what it's going to look like. The coaches are obviously gonna pretty much take what they get from game 1 and try to you know try to work off that. Obviously, that's how it works. Pretty much the defense or the 3-point defense, it's what's going to I mean, if they can shut down the 3, they still have to get the paint shut down as well. Celtics, I'm pretty sure they ended the season with the number one defensive, being the number one defensive team in the league, which is crazy to think that at one point they were like one game under 500. So that's freaking, and they're in the finals right now. But I've said this before that new coach, good amount of new players. Some players come back, like Horford come back, Daniel Tice rejoining the team. With the Warriors, it was last year was more that they were injured. Like Curry. To be honest, Curry. One reason why I didn't there was midseason I thought they were one of the favorite, like clearly one of the favorites, if not the favorites to win the trophy. But then when Curry went down before the playoffs, or that was before the playoffs, I was like a little bit like thinking that they're probably not even going to make it that far because of that reason. And then just Curry's just been obviously playing outstanding, and then Poole playing really well. Poole has been playing pretty good this whole season, to be honest. A lot of people weren't too happy with him not getting the Sixth Man of the Year, which he probably deserved. But I'm pretty sure it was Ja who got it. But still, and you got Klay Thompson, who's playing really well now. He didn't play great during the beginning, but right now he's been pretty awesome. Well, he was pretty awesome during the Dallas Maverick series. He wasn't too bad during the other series either, but he just really improved during the Dallas series. If he keeps that up, Steph keeps it up. Poole. One problem is Poole. I feel like he over dribbles and he just holds on to the ball way too much. You can't do that with Boston Celtics. If you do that, they're just pretty much you're gonna get the ball taken away from you. You got a bunch of swipers out there. D Dub, Smart. They're pretty much all and the wing players, as in Tatum and JB, they're not just gonna let you do that kind of stuff, or they will. But yeah, as you can see in the board, during these playoffs, Boston Celtics are the number one defensive team, and obviously Warriors are the number 2. I mean, they've played the majority of the games, with the Celtics losing 6, Golden State Warriors only losing 4, which is kind of crazy. Only losing 4. This whole playoff, these whole playoffs or these playoff series that they've played. Obviously, Denver Nuggets were not 100. Dallas Mavericks were the complete team, I guess. I don't know. And then the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, they ended up losing Ja. They actually still ended up having one really good game as the Grizzlies. But still, those teams aren't the Boston Celtics. You know, the Boston Celtics have JT, JB, Smart, Derek White, who's been playing awesome. Robert Williams, I don't know, maybe these couple of days that he's been at, what, 5 or 6, maybe 7 days that he's had off. I'm not 100 right now at the moment, but all these days off maybe if helped, and he even becomes a. Because I feel like during the regular season he was such a big threat on the lob, like he just would jump up crazy, and then he got the knee injury. That was the other thing, when Steph during the regular season, Steph got hurt and Robert Williams got hurt. So I felt like when those two things happened, I felt like both teams' championship hopes kind of went down a little bit. But then both players pretty much came back and played decent numbers. I feel, well, obviously Steph is a bigger or a more important to the team than Robert is to the Celtics, even though Robert is actually really important. During the regular season, he was really important because of that lob threat and just the amount of points, and he was the shot blocker on top of it. But the Celtics, I believe, have the line. I mean, they've shown that they could play Green and Kevon Looney at the same time, which I'm sure they're going to do. Probably I'm gonna say Clay, Curry, Poole, Kevon, and Draymond. Maybe that's how it's gonna go. Then Robert Williams plays Horford, Smart, JT, JB. Maybe I mean if Smart is really that injured, then Smart and Derek White are probably gonna like switch on and off. Man, I felt like that the Celtics should have never gotten rid of Dennis Schroeder, but I think they got Daniel Tice and somebody else in that trade. I'm not 100 on that situation. I forget. It's been like I don't know how many damn months. But still, I feel like they should have never gotten rid of him because if they would have kept him, they wouldn't have need. I mean, there would probably be less. They would like probably be less pushy on making sure that Smart plays, but maybe Smart had like something to do with that, like he wanted Schroeder out. Maybe he did want Schroeder out or something. I'm not 100 on that, but obviously Derek White has worked out. I've pretty much been. I was like against, not against. I just didn't like the fact that they got Horford back for some. I don't know why. Well, the thing is, Horford wasn't really playing that great for a long time. He got sat down. Pretty much his season was ended when he was with the Thunder, and Daniel Tice was being used, but not like that much because the Rockets had Christian Wood, which is their younger piece, and they didn't really. And I think they had somebody else that they had drafted, so they weren't really even needing Daniel. I felt like Daniel Tice could have gotten him back much easier, but I feel like Dennis was working really well for the Rockets, and I feel like they are gonna eventually pay him. If they don't, it's kind of wild that they wouldn't. Um, it's funny I'm not even talking about the playoffs specifically at the moment, but sidetracked it. But still, I feel like this Boston Celtics teams would even be stronger with Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench, but then again, like I said, Derek White has been playing really good, so in a way they really don't need him. But it would have been nice. I feel like it would have been nice because he is also pretty good on the defense. He's one of those players similar to Marcus Smart, actually. I don't know if you could say he's good as Marcus Smart, but because Marcus, man, he's been shooting. I don't think a lot of people talk about how good of a shooter he's been during these plays. I don't know if he's regularly this good, but I feel like for the amount of shots he takes, he's probably has one of the best percentages in these playoffs. And I actually don't know what the percentage is, but I don't remember him missing too often, and he's just so confident with his shot. He just takes it like it's nothing, no hesitation or nothing. Not that I remember. Saying all that, let's get down to business, as in the predictions. Man, seeing that the 76ers lost, I had lots of hopes for them to win. because I obviously kept picking them. Also, these New York Nets or Brooklyn Nets. Guess I was really wrong about that, huh? Um, let's get to these predictions, like I said. I'm gonna go ahead and do like two games since I'm pretty much after two games. Since I get a good amount of time to. I mean, I do lives and stuff now too, so I don't feel like I need to do these as often because, like I said, just said lives. I don't really keep the lives. I just pretty much do the lives, and I just that's it. I don't really. I think they save on my phone because I remember the first one I did. I just kept just for guess nostalgic sometimes. I just pretty much want to look back at it someday and be like, that was my first live, and that's the only reason I kept that one. But actually, I think I could download it from TikTok. I don't ever go live on. I've never gone live on Instagram. I have gone live on YouTube. But yeah, let's get back into the predictions. Pretty much said everything. The majority of things that I could get more deeper into stats and everything, but I did want to keep it short. I feel like I made it much longer than I wanted to. That clock you heard earlier, that was for me to start talking about predictions, but I went like 7, 8 minutes, I think, over that. But saying everything that I've said, all the good things I've said about Boston and the Warriors, I feel like the Warriors do have just a little bit more than they do as in the Celtics. I mean, this could go a lot of different ways. Um, the injuries just pretty much, obviously, if they are as injured as they were during the Heat series, as in the Celtics, if all that goes against them, then could we see a 4-0 and that's the end of the series? The series pretty much ends at Boston, which would suck for the Celtics. It starts off at Chashanta, um, where the Warriors do have the chance of winning back to back. But me personally, I'm gonna say that's what I believe is. Actually, I won't go ahead and say this, but forget. I'll go ahead and say I'm gonna say that it's going to go to 7. I just feel like neither one of these teams is gonna allow, similar to what I said with the earlier series, even though Dallas disappointed me a lot. Well, actually, I think it's my. Forget about that. But with this series, just knowing each team has three good options, as in like they can go to, and then they also have their centers and power forwards and all that stuff that they can go to. Like they can, I mean, they as the worst can go to Looney. Not all the time, but when the three top guys, as in Poole, Clay, and also Payton's come back too. The third. So Gary Payton the third. So he's back as well. So that's another thing that the Celtics got to worry about. Because he was starting he actually was starting. So that's the other thing is, are they going back to that? I'm not sure if they're going back to that or not. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Warriors win the first one, and then Celtics take game 2, and that's pretty much all. I mean, I've pretty much said all that I could about who's going to do what and what's going to happen and this and that and the matchups and everything good about it. One thing for Celtics, Al Horford needs to step up in the point scoring area because we've seen this Warriors team. We know what this Warriors team could do, and we know what Steph could do. We know what Clay could do. If their threes go in and the Celtics defense isn't, sometimes you just can't stop a team like the Warriors who shoot so much threes and just actually make them. Not just, the majority of the times they're going to live, obviously, the live, die by the three thing. They're going to live. They're not going to die the majority of the times. Like, if anything, see, that's why I say it goes to 7. But the prediction is mainly just to say which team. Hopefully, I get it right. Like, when I originally did it with the Heat and the freaking Gabagoos, as in the Celtics, like, it was pretty much I had it wrong as in like which game was going to be won and which game was going to be lost. And I did say that in the beginning. It was pretty much somewhat exactly as. Let's see how it actually went before we call it end to this. So game one was by Heat, and I said the Celtics would win. Game two was won by Celtics. I said the Heat would win. And oh, actually, after I think it was like game three or so, I did another video prediction because I had stopped at some point, and I pretty much got the rest of them right, except game six where Jimmy just destroyed it because I expected the series to be done by that time. But yeah, like my last prediction video, I was happy to say that I only got one wrong. It was easier to keep track of because it was obviously only four teams left. The video before that, I think I only got one right, which sucks, but you live by the pick and you die by the pick, ladies and gentlemen. Sabotage.